Hi everybody, welcome to our discussion on Chapter 4, where we're going to be looking at supportive physical environments. This topic you're going to see a lot in creative experiences, you're going to see a lot in your intro to education class, but remember, we're dealing with social and emotional aspects of children, so we're going to be looking at ways that play environments and physical environments in a classroom can be constructed to best benefit students so that they can achieve optimal learning experiences. So, as normal, I present for you the chapter environments, or the chapter ideas. You're going to see some stuff related to Bronfenbrenner and Maslow again, which is good in case that's potentially who you're going to do your research paper on. The other thing you could do a research paper on are different kinds of centers that kids can have and how they can promote different learning opportunities. So that's something that I think might help you, and it might make this for an interesting lecture and interesting topic to look over. So, as I note, the next few slides really go over samples of each area that you can create in your classroom. Remember, we're going to be thinking in terms of an all-inclusive classroom, meaning you have control over what the art center looks like, the literacy center looks like, and for the sake of this, pretend that you're actually in a big school district where you actually have room. Some of you will be, some of you won't. But try to remember each of these elements when you're observing for your observation class, and also when you're doing your field methods as well. So, in an art area, there are three things that you should look for in an art area in order for it to be effective. Art areas really should be in classrooms if the district already does have an art teacher. If the district doesn't have the art teacher, then you're the art teacher. But if the district has an art area, you want to give the students an art center that has obviously non-toxic materials. But the key idea is enough materials to where all students can participate. This is one that will fill up quickly, and all students will want to have a part, and if you can find a way to facilitate their social interactions by creating art, this can also help as well. You want there to be tons of colors for drawing and painting. We are past the days of the eight count crayon box anymore. In most cases, we want to try to make sure that our children have 64 or 96 crayons, if at all possible. So, the library area. I like classrooms that have a library area. I have found that this is really at the discretion of the teacher, whether or not they want to do it in the classroom, or whether or not they just want to use the library. But the key things that I'm looking for when I see one in a classroom is that there are age-appropriate materials, that it's a quiet enough space, meaning the library area should be as far away from the computers and the art center as it possibly can. I also want to see that there's continuity between the books that are there and the topics that are covered in the class, meaning that there's a good opportunity for follow-up books. If you're reading Junie B. Jones, there should be Junie B. Jones books in the library area. Make sure there's some sort of consistency between what the students are seeing there and the content and the topics that you're covering in class. So the writing area. Writing centers. Think about in terms of what the writing center is meant to accomplish. If we're looking at kindergarten, first grade, all that we really care about is letter recognition and word forming. If the child can do that, we're doing the right thing. Now, if we're in the upper grades, we want them to be accurate, we want them to write, we want them to develop in their writing skills as well. So the writing center should reflect all of that in your district. And this is good to really place the writing center next to the reading center because then it kind of facilitates areas where the kids are going to be quiet. So science and math areas really should be a big part of the classroom. You know, many of the books that you'll read on education will say science at the center, but the science really should be at the center of all the activities. There should be enough manipulatives that the children can work with them on their own, large enough so they can't be swallowed, because remember, we don't want safety hazards. And activities should give children the opportunity to want to experiment on their own outside of school. In a good science math area, you're able to do that and you're able to facilitate that. So then next we have the dramatic play area. So you have to set this up in a way that should have, you could set it up like a kitchen, a hospital, or a tool shop, or you could have different clothes where the kids can dress up and play in them. Gender stereotyping is something that tends to come up in a lot of arguments or questions regarding dramatic play. In your creative experiences classes, that's one of the topics that's covered in the textbook. So try to have gender-neutral items, but also set it up to be both different things. Have a play area where the kids can dress up and pretend to be a certain occupation, and also one where they can actually pretend to be doing the occupation as well. So if you have a puzzle area, it should have puzzles. I don't have anything else to say about this. Just make sure that there are different levels of difficulty for kids as well. So the key here is that you are providing a center that's opportunity rich for children. This is good because children, number one, can explore, but number two, this is something else that I think matters, and it matters later on in this course, is that the children has the opportunity to make choices. You want to set rules so the kids can choose to play, but then you want to keep them at the center. This is the easiest way to teach a child responsibility because you're teaching them how to play, how to share, and how to be effective, but you're also letting them make choices with what they do. So, indirect guidance. Indirect guidance is basically having things done appropriately, having the classroom set up appropriately, having materials available appropriately. That's indirect guidance. I'm not telling the kids what to do, but I'm giving them an environment where they can be successful. So they have a positive, friendly learning environment. They're going to be able to make choices that are good choices. That's indirect guidance. So when we talk about different theories which help children develop, we're going back to Bronfenbrenner. So this is ecological systems theory. I, by no means, am telling you have to stick to Bronfenbrenner, but I'm telling you, for child's environment in this class, looking at how different things impact social development of children and emotional development of children, Bronfenbrenner seems to fit the best. So the other thing is how children construct knowledge, and we're also paralleling from what we did and what we learned in Chapter 2 in this class. We remember Dewey, Piaget, and Vygotsky, and they looked at how children exist and how they construct, and they looked at how children construct and build knowledge. Children need to learn through activities, so if you design a well-designed classroom with a multitude of activities, children are going to be able to learn better, socialize better, and they're going to discover what they like and what they don't like. And I think that's important. So once again, if we want to look back at Erikson, we have the first 4 stages of Erikson, which once again I mentioned in Chapter 2. You're going to see that our first test is on Chapters 1 through 4. A lot of the stuff from 4 is overlap, but I can tell you this, if you see Erikson on Chapter 2 and on Chapter 4, you know that I'm going to probably have Erikson a lot on the test. So you need to have children basically work through the 4 stages in your classrooms. We're thinking preschool through grade 4, so we want them to work through trust versus mistrust, autonomy and doubt, initiative and guilt, and industry versus inferiority, and Maslow is also important as well. So what can we use Maslow for? Well, Maslow can be used for sense of order, social interactions, making choices, and active learning. All of these are important because this will enable children to actually determine, what learning environment they learn best in, how can they make choices, and how can they best interact with others. So we'll go over each one. Good classrooms are well arranged, tidy, and organized. Every single one of you in your early childhood classroom, if you're teaching kindergarten, preschool, first grade, this is what you desire to look like. You want your classroom to look like this. Every item has to have a place. There's nothing wrong with messy, but it needs to be organized mess. Kids have to know that every item has a place, and when they're done using it, the item gets put away appropriately. Sometimes things will stay the same day to day, but then eventually they'll change. Children need the opportunity to interact with other students. That's everything. Classrooms have to be set up so that kids can work together and play together. Seating arrangements in early childhood, really, a table-style seating arrangement is best. I like the U arrangement as long as the teacher is crazy enough to be moving and running around the classroom. If the teacher isn't, that's a problem because the teacher's back is always going to be to at least one child. But you want children to interact with others, and it's something you're fostering and facilitating at this age. So social interaction is important. So children have to have the opportunity also to make choices. They have to make age-appropriate choices, and the choices have to be easy choices as well. This is why I'm telling you learning centers are the best thing for kids to make choices, because they're simple, they're easy. Kids can make choices with learning centers, and they can be held accountable for them, which then in turn helps them gain confidence in the decisions they'll make later in life. So when appropriate, kids need to learn how to use actual objects. You have to be careful about what they're using, but kids can only play with toys for so long without actually using what they're actually going to encounter in life. Once they can manipulate real objects and use them for counting, use them for sorting, they tend to do a better job. It'll deepen their understanding of theory and idea, and there'll be continuity between the theory that they learn and what they're able to do. So once again, we have Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Let's go over them now a little bit more in depth. I introduced this in Chapter 2. We're going to visit this now in Chapter 4. So the physiological needs. These are the basic needs of every human being. Every human being needs air, water, food, and sleep. And if we want children to do well in school, we have to provide air, water, food, and sleep for them. Obviously, we don't provide sleep for them, but if the kids are getting sleep at home, then it gives them an opportunity. And if a kid doesn't feel good, we let them lay down so that they are able to get sleep. So, security needs. Security needs are basic but are critical. Every single school has to be a physically safe environment, and it has to be a secure environment. Any parents, adults, teachers in a child's life, we have the responsibility to provide safety and security for them as well. Where we get into a gray area with this is issues like child abuse. We talk about that a lot in EDUC 103, not as much in EDUC 104, but I'll mention child abuse later on in this course. One of the things that you need to keep in mind is that we can control the peers, teachers, and adults that are in a child's life in the school environment. When the child leaves the school environment, we can't control it. So our responsibility for security, and it is a legal responsibility in schools, is that the child feels physically safe and they feel psychologically safe from the people that they encounter in school. So, social needs in schools. Children need belongingness, acceptance, affection, and friendship. Teachers need to be cognizant of who children are working with in groups, give them the opportunity to work together but work with different people, and give them the opportunity to be facilitated in their group work. Don't let kids choose who they're working with. That causes a massive problem with social needs, and it's going to really cause problems with children being accepted socially, because they're only going to go to the same people. Something happens, they're not in class with that child again, then we have a problem as well. When we talk about self-esteem, it's very important that we need to do more than tell a child good job. We have to tell a child good job for what they did and what they accomplished. Good job today on your oral presentation. I like the fact that you really have an understanding of the Grand Canyon. I can tell it's something that you care about. Good job on your oral presentation on dinosaurs. You did a great job comparing what a Tyrannosaurus Rex looks like to a raptor. I gave tangible feedback there that is not just a good job. Self-esteem has to be that way. It has to be healthy, it has to be authentic, and it has to be something that really impacts and helps the child. And if it doesn't, then we have problems. Our goal is to make our cat look like a lion, and when we can do that, we have appropriate self-esteem. So, self-actualization, we cover this. I don't know why we cover it, because kids, sometimes adults don't even meet self-actualization. This is the idea of a child understands their full potential, their mission and vision, and what they want out of life. Some of us aren't even there yet. I can't say that I'm there yet. And, I'm in my mid-30s. Some of you are probably not where you want to be, so, with your self-actualization. So kids don't meet this level when they're in school, but you have to have the other stages so strong so they're able to meet it, and that's the goal. So real quick, let's talk about some benefits of well-designed classrooms. If we have a good designed classroom, there's not going to be much stress, which we're going to talk about stress a lot later. There's not going to be many discipline problems. We're going to talk about discipline later. Children get to interact with other children. They have self-control. They're going to be confident in what they're doing. They're going to be calmer. You're going to have principals that are going to walk through your building, or center directors that walk through the building all the time. They're going to peer in your classroom just to see what's up. One of the things you want them to see is what's going on in your classroom and the fact that it's benefiting students. So poorly designed classrooms are the exact opposite of this. This is basically that room that I put up where basically everything was out of order. If the room's a failure, the children are going to be failures. There's going to be behavioral problems because the kids are going to get frustrated when they can't find things they're supposed to be using. If the teacher can't find it, you lose instruction time. You're going to have more stress, which is going to cause more discipline issues. So design of classroom is everything. So since we've covered group learning centers, let's look at what individual learning centers should look like. Flexible seating arrangements, not as many learning materials, and a small space. These should be seated, but they also should be easy to move as well. So what I did here is I pulled some maps online of some effective learning centers. I think this is something that you really could see in a good school center. We have a smart board, we have a marker board, we have 2 TVs, we have the student's table, we have the teacher desk, we have a circle rug that all the students can fit into, we have a nice little computer center, but we have a table here. A table's important because then the teacher can sit here and see what's going on the computers while the other kids are maybe reading. You have a kidney table for small group instruction if you have a paraprofessional or possibly an older child that comes down to read to students. That's something that you can use as well. To try to develop enough activity centers in space where the kids have choice and can be doing something as well. Most learning centers in an early childhood classroom in schools revolve around computers and computer activities. The teacher has to facilitate the center, give the kids choices when it comes to software, and let them enjoy learning themselves. But we need to keep it quiet so that the other students aren't distracted. The main reason why you have to be quiet in computer centers, and kids aren't going to be quiet, every other kid's going to want to jump in and watch what they're doing. That's what causes the problem. So in our less quiet learning centers, we have ones that invoke group work and opportunities for movement for students. Try to keep these separated from quiet learning centers and in front of the room or by the teacher's desk. We want them by the teacher's desk because even if the teacher's not there, the desk is a symbol. It's an educational symbol where the students know to behave by the teacher's desk. So if we put a louder learning center there, there's more of a chance that the students are going to behave. So traffic patterns. You need to make sure that traffic patterns are wide enough for wheelchairs. If you have students in the building, not just in your classroom, that are in wheelchairs, the entire room has to be wheelchair accessible. They have to be long enough to make moving among areas easy, can encourage running, and there should be only one entrance to each of the centers. That way the teacher can facilitate who goes in the centers and also who goes out of the centers. So when we're talking about designing space for infants and toddlers, one of the things I always say is that you have to be consistent. This is something you don't change. Your job as a classroom teacher, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, heck, all the way up to senior year of high school, you change the room around constantly. Recreate the area, give the child a different learning environment, and help them see what a different learning environment looks like. Not the case in an early childhood center with infants and toddlers. You want to keep the centers the same and switch the materials, but the kids need to be used to the physical arrangement of the classroom. That's important. So, key terms for the chapter, more than anything else, are activity areas, indirect guidance, individual learning center, large group area, private space, small group learning center, and traffic pattern. These are key terms that you might necessarily see on your first test, which brings us to your first test. So the first test marks the end of this block of the chapters. What should you expect from a test from me? Well, for this particular class, we've covered a lot of material. We've done a lot with theory, we've done a lot with the introduction to the guidance system. There's a lot of material in the first 4 chapters of this class. I really want you to look over the PowerPoint slides first and then look over the textbook. What am I going to do in terms of asking questions? Well, I'm not going to have definitions, which I would normally have definitions in a class, but you notice this textbook really doesn't do definitions, so a matching section isn't really something that's going to be here. So what you can expect to see from me from this test is true and false and multiple choice, and all of them will be fair, and all of them will be topics that we've covered throughout the class. I'll give you some scenarios, I'll give you some definitions in multiple choice and true and false form, and I'll give you the opportunity to perform well. If there's anything else that I can do to help, let me know, but that's all we'll be doing next week will be the test. Thank you.